Hello, everyone. Okay, today is I'm going to do a special thing here. I don't normally do this, and I wasn't planning on doing a video today. I was just going to share this with the participants of my group. I run a group for uh, coaches and therapists to help them change limiting beliefs and self-image so that they can make a success of their coaching business and reach the people they can help. And so I was just going to share this information with them. But so I worked with someone this morning. And after that, I did a workout. And after my workout, I took a shower, and I was in the shower and thinking about explaining this to the participants of my program, and I just started going on a tangent. I got really kind of uh, fired up, and I was going through the whole thing and explaining it all, and I thought, this feels like I need to let it out to a bigger audience. I need to get the word out there because this is really it's horrifying, definitely, but it's also enlightening and empowering. And so I'm going to, this may be a long video because I'm going to just kind of share it as it came to me. So this morning I was working with someone who they were wanting to change the belief of the fear of what other people will think. That was one thing. And the second thing was they had a kind of built-in belief that things were their fault, even when they weren't. So, even on a kind of practical, logical level, I would say to them, but what could you have done about that? Was beyond your control. And they really struggled. They had a lot of resistance to believing it, whatever it was, wasn't their fault, even when it wasn't logical. And sometimes they would acknowledge it and go, yeah, I know logically it's not my fault, but I just can't seem to get rid of the feeling that it is. So those were the two issues they wanted to work on. And, we did the detective work that we use in our modality. And it got to the point where I said, okay, so now what's the first thing that pops into your mind from childhood? Even if it's random, even if it doesn't make sense or seem logical, what's the first thing that pops up? And they said, well, I know it's not this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Obviously, it can't be this, but I'm going to say it anyway. And they said Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And it's the Raskin and Bass version. So it's an old animated film. So it's animated, old, and some of you may be familiar with it, and some of you not. Now, I didn't grow up with it. I saw it once a few years ago. When I saw it, I was already horrified at the messaging in it. And so for anyone who's seen it, you may know what I'm talking about. And so, I thought, goodness me, what were they thinking? But anyway, that was that. Now we take a deep dive. So this person I was speaking with this morning, first of all, let me say that the reason I was thinking about sharing this with my clients, with the participants of my program, the coaches and therapists, is to make the point of how important it is to not filter anything out. In other words, the first thing that comes to mind from childhood, even if it seems random, even if it doesn't make any sense, and this is a fantastic example of that. So that's all I was going to share with them until I started explaining it in my head and thought, everybody needs to know this. So the first piece that this person shared with me is that it's a he. I can say he. Okay. Is that the Rudolph is born and he's got a red nose, as we know, and his nose lights up. And the first reference here that we want to look at is his father is horrified by the red nose and the fact that it lights up. And his father says something along the lines of, no self-respecting reindeer would have a red nose. Okay, so start with the red flags there. Okay, the messaging that's getting through now to a child's brain. Now, I must also add here that this is not necessarily going to, in fact, it definitely won't affect all children the same, because what it depends on is what other experiences that child has had and is having at the time. This particular person had a childhood where he felt he was, I don't want to give any identifying details away, obviously, but he had he didn't feel safe and loved in his childhood. There was nothing dramatic about it. It was just he felt just not as safe and loved as he might have. The father reindeer says it rejects or criticizes or judges or whatever this poor little baby reindeer because of his red nose, which he didn't choose, right? I mean, I want to say to well, what would you recommend then? What's your suggestion? But anyway, so there's that. That's the first piece. It gets worse. The second piece is that the mother reindeer doesn't say anything. In fact, she says, "Oh, well, we'll just have to overlook it." So the message there to that child's brain is, number one, I'm not good enough. I'm not approved of by this person who's supposed to protect me and keep me alive, father. And there's no protection from the mother. So this little thing is on its own, right? So that's that piece. Then we go further. So it gets worse. Santa Claus arrives. And so Santa Claus is this, lovely person, lovely character who is, everybody loves him, he gives presents and all that. So this iconic figure arrives and he is disgusted and horrified with Rudolph's red nose. This poor little thing. So first of all, I must also make this connection that the father reindeer and the mother reindeer were mirrors of this person's parents. So in their own childhood already, they had a father who was disengaged and disapproving, and the mother wasn't supportive. The mother did not protect. So when the father said something nasty, the mother did not protect him. So did not protect the child, rather. So this was already familiar as he's watching the film. So that's the first thing. Then Santa Claus arrives, and Santa, this wonderful, jolly person who gives out gifts and everybody loves, he says that Rudolph is not acceptable. He's this red nose is terrible. And in fact, if I remember correctly, there's a line to the father that the father should be ashamed of him. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. But anyway, so that's the messaging there. Now, with this person I was working with, that Santa was represented by an ex-boss, because he said, "Oh my goodness, I see the similarity here." So he'd had an ex-boss who was a narcissist, and he even looked similar to that Santa. So the Santa says, "Well, let's hope the nose changes, because he can't join my team because he looks he's different." Okay, so of course all of this messaging, it's bad to be different and so on. The movie goes on and it gets worse. So there's that now. And I hope I'm not missing anything out, but Rudolph then goes and he's playing with the other reindeer, and the reindeer, of course, are teasing him about his nose. Now, bearing in mind, Santa, who's kind of like the big guy in all this, he disapproves, so of course the other reindeer are going to disapprove. So they're teasing him and laughing at him, so he runs away because he's hurt. And he doesn't know what to do, he doesn't have any control over it. So he runs away, and then when he comes back, as I said, I haven't seen the film for years. I'm going by what this person this morning was sharing with me based on what he remembers. So he comes back to the cave where they live. He walks into the cave, "Mom, Dad, I'm back," and the cave is empty. His parents aren't there. So he's kind of wondering where they are, and Santa turns up again and says, "Oh, yeah, no, they're not here because they're out looking for you." So it's his fault kind of thing, right? So this is the messaging that this person's brain was receiving, this child. And so it's his fault. So, okay, then at some point, there's the parents, while the male and female reindeer, while they're out looking for Rudolph, they get captured by a monster because they were out looking for Rudolph. So you see how all of these messages are building a self-image here. So it's his fault. Not only is it his fault that when he arrives, his parents aren't there. No, now it's his fault that the parents have got captured by a baddie, by the monster. Of course, the fact is, so in the idea is if he hadn't run away, then the parents wouldn't have had to go and look for him, which means they wouldn't have got caught by the monster. But then taking that a step further, if the parents hadn't, had supported him, then he wouldn't have run away in the first place. Okay, so that happens. And then apparently he saves them from the monster. Okay, so that's great. But the messaging there again is that he has to do something because it's his fault. So he has to rectify it. Does that? It gets worse. So eventually, Rudolph is accepted into the thing. So he discovers he can fly. His nose allows him to fly. And now everybody accepts him. Now Santa goes, oh yeah, okay, well, you're good enough now. And the messaging here is that you have to do things in order to be valued. You're not just loved just for existing. And this is the reason this is so powerful and so crucial. I'm going to tell you how we changed it, how it connected to this person's real life and how we changed it in a minute. But first of all, let's just take a moment to recognize that this was brainwashing effectively, because this person from a child, the family, everybody watched this movie over and over again. So these, in addition to their real life experiences at home, at school, in addition to that, they were being brainwashed with the messaging from this movie, which was all adding to the so-called evidence that proved who they were and how the world works. In other words, what people think is really dangerous, and everything is your fault, even when you can't help it, even when it's something beyond your control. So there's that. Now, the main piece I want to get across is that's one thing for the child. This is not just about how it affects a child. This is about the adult that child becomes, who now is brainwashed to believe that that what people think is dangerous, and they have to please everybody, and that they are responsible for things that aren't their fault, and that they will, everything that happens is their fault, all of that, and that they're not lovable just as they are. So there's that. There's a side trip somewhere along the way to the island of misfit toys, apparently. And I'm not sure where that fits in within the storyline of the movie, but again, it's like you can't... people who are not like you won't accept you, or because you're not like them, they won't accept you. But maybe you can find some others that are also not like you, and they may accept you. As it happens, this person corrected me that apparently he wasn't accepted there either. So it's just layers of stuff. So this little boy, the person I was working with this morning, that little boy that he was, absorbed this film, combined with his experience, his real life experiences, and it all formed the structure of his self-image, his unconscious self-image and worldview, that no amount of conscious reasoning or proof or real life as an adult was ever going to override, because in the moment his brain was always referring to his own childhood experiences and backed up by this ridiculous movie. And because the brain can't tell the difference between reality and imagination, it takes these kinds of things as real. It might as well have been real. It might as well have been happening to him as a child, because the brain can't tell the difference. And especially when it's reinforcing existing beliefs and existing experiences. So I think was that the whole. That's most of the references. Anyway, I can't remember all of them. If you've seen this movie, let me know in the comments and let me know what you thought of it, what you thought of the messaging, and any insights that you may have, anything I've left out. I'd love to hear that. I'm also, so now I'm going to tell you how we changed those things. And I'm not going to do all of them because, of course, this will go on for, this video will be very long. So I'm going to tell you the main ones. And if there's anything specific that you would like to know, like how did you change that or how did you address that, let me know in the comments and I'll give you those then. So the first piece was, of course, the father. So the rejection from the father, for the disgust and the horror of the father. So what we did was we changed the movie first. So we used our memory changing techniques to change the movie first, and then we changed his actual life. So the parents and his home life and all of that. So starting with the father reindeer, we changed the father that's right, we changed the mother first, because this was a piece that other people may not really pick up from the movie, but because this person had the situation at home, this kind of resonated with them. So the mother reindeer is not supportive, so the father reindeer is disgusted and so we changed it so that the mother reindeer is fiercely protective of Rudolph. She like mother bear energy, and she sends the father reindeer out of the room. How dare you, what's wrong with you, go. And then she comforts and reassures Rudolph and tells him there's nothing, of course there's nothing wrong with you, you're beautiful, and so on. Then we added the piece where the father reindeer comes back and says, I'm so sorry, I don't know what got into me, it's my own stuff, it's not you. So he is remorseful and apologetic, and so we created that strong foundation of safety and support and love there. Then we brought in Santa. So now Santa arrives, and now the mother treats Santa, she reacts to Santa in that protective way, the same way she reacted to the father. Now parallel to this, we're doing his own real life memories as well. So we changed the memories of his father so that his mother, his real mother, it's getting confusing, not Rudolph's mother, this person I was working with, his mother is fiercely protective, sends the father out of the room, the father comes back, I'm so sorry, all of that. So that we were creating in that child a sense of I'm protected, I'm worth protecting, I've got a foundation of someone's got my back, all of that a child needs to know. The mother is going to protect him even against the father. So we did all that. Then back to Rudolph. Santa arrives and behaves like that, and the mother reacts the same way as she did to the father. And here's the extra piece here, is that the father reindeer does the same. So now Rudolph has both of his parents protecting him and sending Santa out. If you can't behave, you've got no respect, go, whatever, that kind of thing. And then Santa comes back later and says, I'm so sorry, I don't know what got into me, etc. So that Rudolph has that feeling. And as we were doing this, I kept asking the person, so how does Rudolph feel now? How does that feel for Rudolph? So that we could keep track of the effects of these changes. Okay, so then we go back to his real life. We do the same. So now the ex-boss that he'd worked with, that reminded him of this Santa character, I said, okay, that ex-boss comes to the house while you're a child, and the parents both protect you in that way. Now, what was happening here in the brain is that, so as this person was going about his life, choosing a job, choosing friendships, making decisions, his brain was constantly referring to not only his own childhood, but this film, the messages, the evidence in this film as well, and then going, you know what, this would be a great person to work for. And of course, he was having that same experience, but he didn't consciously recognize. It's not like he met that person or realized that that person was a narcissist and then went, oh, you know what this reminds me of? It doesn't work that way. It's unconscious. So, okay, so we did that. Then we did, of course, the running away, and then he comes back, and the cave is empty. His parents aren't there. Mom, Dad, I'm here, and they're not there. And Santa turns up and says, "Oh well, it's because they're out looking for you." And at that moment, the two parents come back and go, "No, we're not. We knew he'd come back." So we've got that piece, and of course, then we did the where he doesn't run away. So we changed all the fragments and pieces, and as I said, I won't tell you all of them because it'll be very long, but if there are any specific ones you want to know out of interest, let me know in the comments, and I'll share those with you. So we did all of that, and it ended up that he doesn't need to fly in order to be worthy. And Santa then, so what he did actually on his own was he brought the Santa from, apparently there's another movie by the same producers, and the Santa is lovely, and he's what did he say? Because I hadn't seen that one. Something about, he goes against the law of the land, which is you're not allowed to have toys, and he gives people toys anyway, and sneaks into castles to leave toys for people and that sort of thing. So we changed that Santa in Rudolph to the nice Santa, to the good Santa, and so on. So there was a lot of pieces. This session was probably about 2 hours or so. Anyway, we changed all of the pieces in the movie. We changed all of the pieces in his childhood regarding all of this. And then I said to him, so now a situation he'd mentioned in the beginning, where he was worried about what other people will think. How do you feel now? And he didn't have that feeling. He didn't have the fear of what other people would think, because now his brain was referring to all of those new references that prove he's safe and people love him. So there's that. And also, if they don't, they're the baddies. So because from that other Santa movie. So there's that. And then also I asked him how he felt about certain things where he'd felt it was his fault, even though he didn't have control over it. And so he checked, and he was like, I don't feel this. I can see it's not my fault. So those core, and this person is sort of older, those core beliefs that had been there for so many years and were part of the fabric of who he was, have gone like that in 2 hours. And he then called me just a little earlier. He had to do something. I don't want to give away identifying details, obviously, but there was something he had to deal with, a person, and normally he would have felt that he'd done something wrong, it was his fault, whatever, and he doesn't. He just feels normal. So his confidence has changed based on changing his own childhood and that movie. So I wanted to share this because for those of you who are working on your changing childhood memories, remember that the references, when you're looking for them, the references could be movies, TV shows, books, stories, bedtime stories you were told, fairy tales. If you are looking for childhood references and you think, okay, well, what's the first thing that pops into my mind? And it's Cinderella. Don't discount it because Cinderella has nothing to do with your current procrastination. Don't discount it. Pay attention to it and go, okay, so what is it about Cinderella that stands out? And maybe it's that you had a book of Cinderella, and on the cover there was a shade of blue, and that shade of blue was the same shade of blue as your little chair in nursery school, and something happened when you were sitting in that chair. That's the kind of links there could be. So when you think about, oh, well, Cinderella has nothing to do with my current problem, it's not necessarily logical. So follow the trail anyway. Don't filter it out. Don't discount it. So I hope that's helpful. For those of you who are coaches and therapists or practitioners, if you're interested in our program, I would love to have you on, to have a chat with you to see if it's a good fit for you. I will put a link in let me know in the comments if you're interested, and I can send you a link, but I'll put a link in the description of this video when I publish it or edit it or whatever. Okay, so and let me know in the comments your questions. Let me know what you think of this topic, and if you can think of any other films actually that have similar kind of messaging and effects. All right, I think that's all I have for today. That was my rant for today, and I will see you next time. Lots of love to all of you. Bye bye now.